Seems to be a series about personal taxes, and today we're talking about rental income. So when I lived in Calgary, I did personal taxes as well, and I didn't run into rental income all that often, but now that I live in Ottawa, it seems like every other person has rental income. I'm sure that's a product of living in a university town where the rental market is a lot bigger than in Calgary. But it's top of mind. I did one today that had rental income, so that's why we're talking about it. Rental income is a lot like business income. So if you're familiar with being a sole proprietor, then it's very similar to that. We have to record the gross income in rents that we receive, and we can deduct a bunch of expenses, and then we come out with our net number. There's a little more to it than just deduct some expenses, so we're going to go through that. On your personal tax return, it's usually under the rental, like if you can search for rental income, it should come right up. I think it's T778 for those of you who like numbers. So you record your gross rental income, and so the total of all the rent that you received, and you have to put in the address of the place that you're renting, and you have a chance to put in if you're partners or not. So sometimes two people, like spouses, might own a property that they're renting, so you want to make sure that you only claim your piece of it. Okay, so we've got our gross rental income on there, and then the next part is for expenses, and expenses can be things like advertising or professional fees, like if you have a management company or something like that, if you have somebody come in to like clean the place, if you have to use your vehicle for going over there, driving around to pick up things, that kind of thing, you can claim your either a piece of your vehicle, or you can claim a mileage charge. The utilities, property taxes, interest on the mortgage, any condo fees that you have. You can't claim the closing costs of the property. So if you bought it, say you bought it in 2019 and you had to pay a lawyer to like do some sort of land transfer thing. I've never actually bought a property, so I don't know exactly, but I know there's a bunch of closing costs involved. All of those, most of those go into the cost of the property itself, and you can take a little piece of the property every year and deduct it. That's a CCA process, which I'm not going to get into in this video because it's beyond the scope, but that's you can take a little piece of the total cost of your property and deduct it every year. So all of those closing costs, legal fees, that kind of thing, they go into the cost of the property itself, and you can't actually deduct it in the year. But if you had legal fees later on for something else, you could deduct those, for example. Basically anything that it takes to like be able to rent the property. So if you have to pay utilities, or if you had to pay for like somebody to come and clear the snow and mow the lawn and like all those things. So if you have rental property, it's really important to keep your receipts and to build a little spreadsheet. Usually if you just have one property, all you need is a spreadsheet to just track all the different things. If you're not super familiar with the form that you need to fill out to file rental income on your taxes, I recommend looking it up. Even if you're not interested in actually doing your own taxes, I still recommend looking it up because it has a listing of all the expenses, all the kinds of expenses that you can deduct. So that's super helpful. Okay, so we've got our gross rental income and we've got all our expenses. And then there's another column that lets us put in a personal portion of all those expenses. So say we're renting like a room in our house or the basement or something like that. Then some of those expenses, like the mortgage interest and utilities and that kind of thing, might be shared throughout the whole house. So you have a chance to say, okay, this piece of all those expenses is actually personal and shouldn't be included in the total. And that's kind of it. That's like the big pieces of rental income. I mean, there's like some little nuancy things, and like every situation is different, that kind of thing. But that's the big picture. Gross rental income, all of your expenses, net amount. Net amount goes on your taxes as taxable income. If you have any questions about rental income or your own specific situation, leave them for me in the comments and I will give you my best answer. And if it's a really complicated / in-depth question, I will do a whole video just for you answering your question. I will see you tomorrow.